Hi.
Hi.
I was just explaining, and now you have your latest book, The Ancestor.
I do. I do have my latest book, The Ancestor. I'm sorry you had so many technical difficulties.
I know, I'm like striking out right and left. I'm happy
I'm
to
glad
see
I'm
you.
here.
Thank you. I know you're like, I can join. So thanks for coming on early and everything.
No problem.
Um, first of all, tell everybody about The Ancestor. It sounds
Okay.
so good. I read part of it
So,
already.
so The Ancestor is a novel about a woman, just a sort of average woman living a kind of average life, who gets a letter in the mail revealing that she is related to an aristocratic family in the Alps of northern Italy. And it turns out she had taken a DNA test, just a 23andMe kind of box DNA test. Her information got put into a database, and through that, they found her, and her life completely changes. She goes from living in a sort of rural life in upstate New York to owning a castle and inheriting this huge family legacy. But as you can imagine, because this is kind of a literary suspense novel, things do not go exactly as she would have hoped.
And I thought it was particularly interesting because the main character doesn't even have a family. So it's not like she has a current family and then inherits a new one. Her parents have died. She's
Right,
like an only child. It's just her and her husband, Luca. And then next thing you
right.
know, she's like thrown into this whole new
This whole new
thing.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all of it, a lot of it revolves around genetics and inheritance. And, in the beginning, you probably saw she's having trouble having a baby, and she's very upset about this, and she wants to know why. And all of that comes out gradually when she goes to Italy. And she learns a lot about what it means to be part. So the family is the Montebianco family, and they have, a lineage that goes back 1,000 years. And she learns a lot about what it means to have those connections. So she is, as you say, drifting, doesn't have a family, longing for a family. But, for me, when I was writing it, I have a big extended Italian family. And, when I was writing it, I wanted to explore what it would mean to have to create something new. Part of the shock of the book is that, as I mentioned, things don't go exactly the way she thought they would. It turns out that her family has a secret that nobody else knows, and she inherits keeping that secret as well. So she, it's very fraught.
Which makes for great reading.
Not for great life, right?
Not for a great life, but anybody who's living a fraught life, you have a novel in you. You do.
Right. We're all living a very fraught life right now. So I think we're all getting the material for something someday.
Yes, there'll be a huge outpouring of stories from this time. I can't imagine what's coming out of people.
Yeah, not from me, I promise you. I'm not going to write a virus novel for sure. But this book was inspired. I myself took a 23andMe test, and I discovered that I am only 1.7% Italian.
Oh, no.
I know. And I had grown up in this sort of big extended Italian American family. And, my last name is Trussoni. And I even have an Italian passport because my grandparents, there's a legal way you can get one if your grandparents are Italian. And so it was a huge shock. And my sister took the test, same thing, 1.7%. And really, it got me thinking about how much we depend on ancestral stories and who we are connected to throughout history, and how it really defines who we are now, especially here in America, where all of us trace our roots back to someplace else, or many of us Native Americans, of course, trace their roots back to here. But what does it mean if that's suddenly ripped out from under you?
Well, wait, what did you do when you found out it was 1.7%? Did you make your parents?
What?
No, your parents.
No, it wasn't that. I mean, it wasn't a situation where it's like, oh, one of my parents isn't my parents. It turns out that because I'm Northern Italian, and the Italian Alps traditionally it was this huge flux of peoples from Germany and Austria and France. And it was just this big mix of people. The genetic groups of Northern Europe all mixed there. And so technically what they define as Italian is more Southern Italian, like Rome. And so, and also Italy became Italy in like in the 19th century. Forever before that, it was just all these little regions. And so technically, I mean, I still am from where I'm from, and I've been to the little village in the Alps where my grandparents came from, my great grandparents came, and I'm still that person, but the identity of me as being Italian was shaken, which I love. I mean, I didn't love it at the time, but now I love to think about it. Like, what does that mean for who we are as people when, our ancestral connections are kind of broken and we have to think about it again?
I also think it just speaks to how much we all have this like innate sense of needing to belong to a certain group, right? And
Yeah.
to, affiliate with something and have things
Right.
that are sort of bigger than us, even if it's just an Italian dinner on a Sunday night or,
Right.
whatever, my
Right.
matzo ball soup, I don't know, something,
It's
but
so
that you're a
important.
part of something. Yeah.
Right. And it's so important. My husband is French, and I've adopted a lot of the sort of French rituals that in our family, that his family does, and that has been really important to me. I think a lot of Americans are struggling to create rituals and family moments and stories about who we are and where we come from. The extreme side of that, it becomes tribalism, right? Like where we are us and they are them. And what the book really explodes by the end is that whole idea, because Bert, that's the main character of the ancestor. She thinks she's one thing, she becomes something else, and then she realizes she's not even that, right? Like this family secret explodes that again. So it's a constant sort of transformation for her from the beginning to the end of who she was and who she becomes.
And how long did it take you to write it? Like, what was your process like?
So it's really interesting. I took that test. I was pregnant, and I wrote the first draft when I was pregnant, and then had my daughter, who's now 2. So I guess, about 3 years.
It's not bad.
Yeah, I know. I mean, not bad, I guess. It feels like forever, but.
What about your previous books?
So Angelology was my first novel. And that took a lot longer because it's a very researched historical thriller, about also a young woman, this time a nun, who discovers that there are these angelic creatures that exist on our planet. Anyway, so that it was very, very, very biblically based, and I didn't know a lot about the history of religion. So that took about 4 years to write. And then, of course, it was published after that, so it took longer, because of the publication process. But so I guess in terms of that, this book was faster. It was quicker. It just never feels that way, right? This is my first Instagram live chat, and I have to tell you, I was very nervous before getting on, because I, exactly what happened before I got on, like with the buttons, like, am I going to be able to do this? But it's so easy.
How was it? Yeah, not bad, right?
Not bad. It's not bad. It's fun.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate all your time.
Thank you for having me. Bye, Zibby.
My pleasure. Bye.